You're in a season where your
It's gonna
energy
do a
is
short
shifting,
live.
your standards are rising, and certain people are starting to feel that distance, even if you haven't said a word. There's this quiet internal click where you finally stop chasing, stop convincing, and stop begging for the bare minimum, and that alone is shaking up your relationships. You might notice someone who was once comfortable in your life suddenly feeling uncomfortable, because your silence, your emotional detachment, and your refusal to play the same old role are exposing everything that used to go unnoticed. You can feel it in how conversations land now. When someone sends a half-hearted message, a dry response, or only reaches out when they need something, you don't jump to respond like you used to. You pause, you see the pattern. You're not as quick to explain yourself, to overshare, or to smooth things over when someone pulls back or gets weird. That emotional shift is powerful because it shows you've learned from the cycles where you kept giving clarity and comfort to people who never earned it. There's a specific kind of silence you've been practicing.
Gaza's population.
The cold shoulder, not passive aggression, but a clean-cut, calm silence where you no longer argue about your worth. You don't chase after people who ghost you, breadcrumb you, or keep you on standby. You've learned that constantly explaining your needs to someone who doesn't want to meet them only drains you. And now you're choosing to step back instead of stepping in and fixing things that you didn't break. You've also started to recognize how often you were chosen only when it was convenient. You were the person they ran to when things fell apart, when they were bored, or when their other options dried up. They liked the version of you that overgave, overunderstood, and overextended. But now that you've stopped being so available, now that you're not instantly responding or rescuing, that same person is confused, bothered, or even low-key resentful because you're not playing your old part on demand. Pay attention to how they react when you pull your energy back. The ones who only valued your access to them, not your actual well-being, will start to show it. They might test you with delayed replies, half efforts, or by going silent themselves to see if you'll come chasing like before. They might suddenly act off without explaining, waiting to see if you'll run after their mood and try to fix what they won't name. All of that is designed to pull you back into a role where you put their comfort above your own. You're no longer entertaining those subtle games. You can feel when someone is intentionally trying to confuse you, give you mixed signals, or keep you guessing so they can stay in control. You see how they show interest just enough to keep you hooked, then withdraw when you start expecting consistency. That on and off pattern used to pull you in because you kept hoping that the good version of them was the real one. But now you understand that inconsistency is a decision, not an accident. Your emotional detachment is not about not caring. It's about not collapsing every time someone pulls away. It's about being able to notice when someone switches up without needing to chase them down for closure. You can feel the shift in yourself. Where you would once send long messages, asking whether you did something wrong, now you're able to sit with the discomfort and let them reveal who they are through their absence. You're no longer fighting to keep a spot in someone's life who keeps proving they don't know your value. This shift in you is making certain people nervous because they were used to having emotional power over
All I
you.
can say
They were
is
used to
always
seeing you
listen to your
react,
instincts, man.
over-explain, or apologize for things that weren't your
Always.
fault. They relied on you doubting yourself so that you would keep accepting less. Now, your calm, your stillness, and your refusal to overreact make them feel like they're losing control. Where they once could trigger you, they're now met with quiet boundaries. You might notice someone trying to re-enter your life with familiar patterns. Light conversations, random check-ins, or nostalgia-based messages
Can you hear me
reminding you
now?
of how things used to be. They're hoping you'll slip back into the same dynamic without addressing what actually happened. But your standards have changed. You're
Let
listening
me
more to
know.
consistency than to pretty words. You're watching whether their actions match their
Appreciate you.
tone, whether they show up for you when it's not convenient, whether they can handle your
Joseph.
boundaries without taking them as an
Biblical name.
insult. One of the biggest signs of your growth is that you're not impressed by bare minimum effort anymore.
I
A
appreciate
quick
you.
"I miss you" doesn't move you if it's followed by the same patterns of distance and indifference. Apologies don't hit the same if they're not followed by
Yeah.
changed behavior. You
Yeah.
used to overvalue any small sign of care, especially from people you were attached to. But now you can see when someone only gives just enough attention to keep you from fully walking away. You're also seeing how much peace you gain when you stop trying to control someone's perception of you. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding, defend yourself against every assumption, or prove your loyalty to people who doubt you without cause. There's a specific freedom in letting people think what they want while you quietly move on with your boundaries intact.
There's much freedom in just allowing things to just happen naturally. And I can't make this up, guys. Like, even when it seems like, it's dark and everything is going, upside down, I'm telling you, if you just hold on, and you stay patient, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The universe has a way of showing you exactly what you need. If you just have an open mind, if you have an open eye to see it. I appreciate that. Thank you.
The truth keeps revealing itself over time, and you've learned to let time do the talking instead of constantly arguing your side. As your standards rise, your tolerance
How are
drops
you,
for
Isaac?
people
I
who
see
speak
you.
in circles. You're less patient with excuses, vague responses, and non-answers when you ask direct questions. You can feel the difference between someone who is emotionally available and someone who just likes access to your energy. People who dodge real conversations, who switch the topic when you bring up your needs, or who make you feel like you're too much for asking for clarity, are showing you exactly why your new boundaries are necessary. Your silence is becoming one of your strongest responses, not because you're running, but because you're no longer interested in re-explaining the same truth to someone committed to misunderstanding you. When someone shows you that they only hear what benefits them, you stop trying to convince them of your side. You save your energy for people who are actually capable of listening, taking accountability, and meeting you in the middle. You've probably noticed that some connections fell off once you stopped over-functioning. When you stopped being the planner, the fixer, the emotional support on call, the entire dynamic collapsed. That can feel lonely at first, because it forces you to confront how much of those relationships were dependent on you doing most of the work.
You have to
But
confront
that
them, though.
clarity is a
You
gift.
have to.
It exposes who was connected to your heart and who was connected only to your efforts. Your energy now is more selective, and that can feel intimidating to people who are accustomed to your old level of access. They might accuse you of changing, acting different, or thinking you're better simply because you no longer tolerate disrespect, confusion, or half-love. Understand that when you establish boundaries, those who benefited from your lack of them will always feel offended. Their reaction is not a sign that you're wrong. It's proof that the boundary is working. There are also people quietly watching you, noticing your shift. They may not say much, but they feel that they can't approach you in the casual, careless way they once did. They can sense that you're not desperate for attention anymore, that you're not pressed for validation, that you're willing to be alone rather than entertained with inconsistent energy. That awareness alone forces them either to level up how they deal with you or to fall back entirely. You're being guided toward connections where you don't have to dim your needs or shrink your expectations.
What's going on, Ricky Jones?
There's a difference
How you
between
doing,
being
family?
easygoing and being a doormat. And you're no longer interested in calling your own neglect
No,
chill.
man,
The
we're
people
not
meant for you won't be
lowering
intimidated
ourselves.
by
You
your
know what I'm
desire
saying?
for clarity,
If a person can't
consistency,
meet
or
us
reciprocity.
where we are, then
They won't
we
make
have
you
to
feel
release them.
punished for having standards.
That's
Your
exactly
new
what we have to
detachment
do.
is
I
creating
appreciate the light.
space for
Thank
those
you.
kinds of people to actually find you. At the same time, you're learning to hold yourself accountable. Your emotional detachment isn't an excuse to shut down completely or to avoid
No, it
vulnerability
is,
with everyone.
and a lot of
It's
us are
about
going
being
through,
intentional.
excuse me, a lot of us are going through unnecessary, turmoil when when we can just learn from our situation versus just keep enduring, because that's what we have to do. We have to experience, we have to learn, and, make the right decisions, because that's exactly what life is. It's decisions. It's all choices. Just make the best one for you.
You're noticing where your own unhealed patterns used to pull you into situations where you overgave just to feel important, needed, or chosen. Instead of blaming only others, you're owning the ways you stayed too long, excused too much, or ignored your intuition when things felt off from the beginning. This inner work is why your energy feels heavier, sharper, and more self-protective now. You're not easily impressed. You're not sold on potential.
I
You're
appreciate the
less
likes.
likely to
Thank you. I
believe someone's
appreciate the love,
version of
all of it.
themselves if their
Sincerely.
daily actions don't back it up. When a person tells you they're busy, complicated, or not good at communication, you hear it for what it is. A warning, not a challenge for you to fix them. You're no longer turned on by chaos and inconsistency disguised as passion. It's important to recognize that the person who's uncomfortable with your growth doesn't necessarily see themselves as the villain. They might genuinely not understand why you've pulled away, because they were so used to your old behavior that they thought it would last forever. They were used to you tolerating things, forgiving quickly, or always being there. Your new detachment feels like a shock to them, almost like they lost something they thought they owned. That's where your strength comes in. You don't need them to understand the full depth of your decision to detach. You don't need to hold a long exit meeting for every connection that no longer aligns. Your body, your mind, and your peace were giving you signals long before you acted. The exhaustion, the overthinking, the feeling of being on an emotional roller coaster every time you dealt with them, those were the signs. Your current detachment is the response. You're allowed to choose quiet over chaos. You're allowed to choose unanswered questions over forced conversations.
Reflections, when we ignore our internal dialogue, when we ignore our being, you're only going to have catastrophic outcomes. That's it's because you're not listening. You're not listening. And the universe just wants to help you. You know, I can't make this up, guys. All you have to do is listen to your internal dialogue. When a person is consistently taking you for granted, disrespecting you, walking over you, thinking that you're a doormat, you have you have a choice to make. You can either consistently endure this or you can make an active decision to move on. You know, because it's not that person's fault. It's your own for staying as long as you have. Now, I'm only speaking from experience, sincerely.
That go nowhere. You're allowed to love someone and still decide they're not healthy for your nervous system. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you hate them. It
No,
means you're done sacrificing your
right.
sanity to
We don't
maintain
hate
access
anybody.
to a
We just
version
have to
of them
move on
that
for
only
our
shows up
sanity.
some of the time. If someone is meant to stay in your life, they will feel the
I
shift in your
appreciate that,
energy and
Pixie.
respond with
I
growth,
appreciate
not
that.
manipulation.
Sincerely,
They
that's
won't
love.
just push harder on the same buttons that used to work on you. Instead, they'll show a willingness to communicate honestly,
Power.
to sit in
Absolutely.
uncomfortable conversations
And
without
God will
running,
get you through it
and to
all. I
respect
can't
your
make this
pace
up, guys.
instead of demanding instant
I can't.
access like before. You won't have to keep reminding
You
them
know,
of
it
what your
hurts. It really
boundaries
does.
are.
It hurts a lot.
They'll remember because they care. Your role now is to honor
But
what
you
you've
know you'll be
learned.
okay. You'll be
Don't
okay.
gaslight yourself back into cycles you already outgrew just because someone suddenly misses the access they had to you. Missing your energy is not the
How
same
you
as
doing,
valuing
Pixel
you.
Drink fan? And I
Feeling
appreciate the
your absence
subscribe.
is not the
I
same as
mean,
being ready to
sincerely, from
treat
my
you
heart.
right. You're not required to return to an old version of yourself just to make someone more comfortable with the new you.
We
You're
gotta
not
love
losing
ourselves,
people.
you know? We gotta
You're
put
losing
ourselves first for
access to the
once.
version of yourself that
For
tolerated what
life.
hurt you. And anyone who truly values you will respect that, even if it challenges them. Your emotional detachment is not the end of your ability to love. It's the beginning of loving in a way that doesn't destroy you.
Right.
However you book your car, first check
Excuse the commercial, but sincerely, it just opens up so many doors for us. Loving ourselves, putting ourselves first, you know, respecting ourselves. Just respecting ourselves. Because if we don't respect ourselves, no one outside of us is going to be able to do that. If we're not loving ourselves, no one outside of us is going to be able to do that. When we love ourselves wholeheartedly, unconditionally, that love comes to you. I'm telling you, yes, you're gonna have to weed through, you know, the ones that, but I'm telling you, it's all happening for your greatest good because you are eternally loved. I cannot make any of this up. You have to listen to your body. How does this person make you feel when you're around them, you know? How do they make you feel when you guys have a conversation? How do you feel when you leave this person in a conversation? How do you feel after that conversation? Are you drained? You know, are you brimming with anxiety? Like, are you like, do you feel safe? Are you feeling peaceful? You need to ask yourself these questions and you need to be 100% honest with yourself because it matters. You matter. So you have to let this world know that you matter by loving yourself. I'm telling you, you will become a magnet, not for just love, money, whatever you like. I mean, whatever your desires are. Because the universe only wants to give you what you require. And I can't make this up, but it all starts with your purpose. Your purpose, family. We have to have your purpose. But stick with me, we got more.
Decide. Are you going to live the life that's actually meant for you, or keep rehearsing the same watered-down version because it feels safer and more familiar? You feel it in your body when you're shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you. When you bite your tongue in rooms where you're the most intuitive person there. When you keep ignoring that gnawing sense that you're meant for more because other people are comfortable with you staying the same. That quiet internal tension, that frustration of knowing you see deeper, feel sharper, and process life in a different way than the people around you. That's not you being dramatic. That's you outgrowing an old life. You can tell you're outgrowing it because things you used to tolerate now feel unbearable. The conversations that revolve around gossip, complaining, and distraction drain you in seconds.
They do.
The obligations you used to say yes to without thinking now feel like a betrayal of your own energy.
It does.
You start canceling plans, not because you're lazy or antisocial, but because your nervous system is tired of performing a version of you that's polite, agreeable, and palatable, instead of honest, deep, and present. Even simple things like scrolling on your phone or going through the same routines start to feel like they are numbing you out instead of supporting you.
Yes.
That's the early stage of a massive life upgrade.
That's how you
Your
know.
old coping mechanisms stop
I
working.
cannot make this up.
Your
That's how
old
you know.
environments feel tight, and your old identity can't hold who you're becoming. At the same time, you start noticing more. You feel tension in places you used to gloss over. You watch how people talk about others when they leave the room, and it doesn't sit right. You feel the shift in your body when someone is around you for their benefit, not because they genuinely value you. You see patterns in your family, in your friendships, in your work. Cycles of self-sacrifice, cycles of settling, cycles of silencing yourself that you used to normalize because that's just how it is. But once you begin to see the pattern, you can't unsee it.
No, you can't. And once you see it, oh man, it just changes everything. And it's gonna be a little intimidating in the beginning, but I assure you that it's so worth it. Now, I mean, because you not only find your truest and purest best self, you respect and love yourself to a degree that's parallel to God's love for you. So you will not tolerate people who don't have your best interest at heart. You will not tolerate people who are leaving you behind when you should be the one up front. You know, like, guys, if you're not fitting in, that means you're not supposed to. That means 9 times out of 10, you have a big purpose in life. And the universe is just trying to shake you and wake you up and let you know that your surroundings, the people surrounding you, are not for you. You know, you can't elevate with weight on you. You can't rise with a whole bunch of baggage. It doesn't work this way. So we have to learn the art of detachment. It's necessary. Yes, it hurts, but it's necessary. It's necessary. Once we can get past it, family, man, we'll understand that once you're able to, like, you don't stop loving these people. You don't, because that's just who you are anyway. But once you're able to, let them go and with the best, with love, and it has to be intentional. It has to be pure, real love. No resentment, no vengeful thoughts, no malice, no anything negative. That's all low vibrational anyway. So we have to detach, and we have to do our best to no communication, no nothing, because we have to understand that when we do this, we're not only hindering ourselves, but we're hindering their path. You know what I'm saying? And I know what it sounds like, but the people that come into our lives, the ones that hurt us the most, are always done by the ones we love the most for a reason. Now, this is facts, but it's not to hurt us. It's not to hurt us, guys. It's just to wake us up. It's to wake us up to our own divinity. It's to wake us up to our purpose. It's to wake us up to real love, what we really deserve in life. And we all deserve love. We all deserve loyalty. We all deserve truth. It's just that a lot of us are settling for less than we would deserve, you know? And if you're settling, the universe is going to keep providing you with what you're settling for. It's just how it works. Study universal law. Study hermetic law. It'll help.
That new level of awareness is the first break in the old matrix. It's like your mind zooms out and you suddenly spot the code underneath everything you've been living. This zoomed-out vision is uncomfortable because you begin to see where you've been betraying yourself to keep other people comfortable. You notice every time you laughed at a joke that insulted you, every time you lowered your voice so you didn't seem too much, every time you downplayed your talents because someone else was insecure. You remember how often you said, "It's fine, it's not a big deal."
You won't dim your light anymore. You have to stop dimming your light. I don't care who you're around. Stop dimming your light. SG, how you doing, love? How are you? But sincerely, we don't dim our light for anybody. It only hurts us. Sincerely.
Even when it was a big deal to you. That accumulation of self-abandonment sits heavy in your chest, and it shows up as anxiety, resentment, and this subtle bitterness at your own life. Not because your life is terrible, but because it's misaligned with what you actually know you're capable of. This is why it starts to feel like the universe keeps turning up the volume on the same lesson.
This is the wonder of an approach.
Again, excuse that.
Notice the same dynamic repeating in different bodies. One friend disrespects your time, another partner ignores your boundaries, a boss takes advantage of your work ethic. And each time it happens, your reaction gets stronger. What you used to brush off becomes intolerable.
Pay attention.
That's not you becoming more sensitive in a bad way. That's you increasing your standards and your self-respect.
Right.
The discomfort is feedback. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep living like this. The longer you ignore that message, the louder the frustration gets. When you're on the edge of a big shift, your body usually knows before your mind admits it. You feel restless in spaces that used to feel fine. Your sleep is off, your energy is up and down, you have moments where your chest feels tight or your stomach drops for no obvious reason. It's like you're standing in a doorway, one foot in the old reality where you overgive and under-receive, and one foot in the emerging version of you that refuses to abandon yourself anymore.
And this also means that you've shifted into a new timeline, you know, a better timeline. And it's gonna get chaotic before it gets beautiful. That's just how it works, guys. In order to receive what's beautiful, we have to go through all the darkness, all the, you know, the low vibrational stuff, the BS, so to speak. We have to go through it, and it's necessary. And I'm here to tell you that when things do get like this, that's because you're elevating, you're going up, you're moving up, you're shifting. And this is always going to benefit you. Not just you, your family.
That inner tug of war is exhausting. You start to question everything. What you want, what you're doing, who you spend your time with, even what you believe you deserve. You might even start to think you're the problem because you're less tolerant of certain behaviors.
Yeah.
People might say you've changed, that you're acting distant, that you're overreacting or being too sensitive. But look closely at who's saying it. Often it's the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. The ones who were comfortable as long as you were available on demand, as long as you carried the emotional weight of the connection, as long as you made yourself convenient for their schedule, their moods, their needs. When you start honoring your own limits, those dynamics get exposed. The truth is,
Naturally.
you changing doesn't ruin real connections. It only reveals which ones were built on your self-neglect.
Absolutely. So
This
when
is the
when these
stage where you're
relationships
tested.
start deteriorating, it's only showing you that it was built falsely. And you have to pay attention to that as well. And don't ignore it, because if you ignore it, you're just going to be dealing with relationships and people that you shouldn't be dealing with. You know, you have to love them and let them go. Just love them from a distance. That's our problem in life as human beings. We have a serious problem, a serious condition with relinquishing what doesn't suit us. Sincerely. You got to be able to let go.
You say you want better, but will you actually move differently when the same situation repeats? When someone tries to push past your boundary again, will you say, "It's fine," or will you hold the line even if they get upset? When an opportunity comes that looks good on the surface but requires you to shrink yourself again, will you accept out of fear or walk away out of self-respect? These moments feel small on the outside. One text you don't answer, one invitation you decline, one task you say no to, but internally they're rewiring your entire reality. Each choice is you voting for the life you say you want, or for the comfort of what you've outgrown. At some point, you stop expecting people to understand your upgrade. You stop sending long explanations. You stop oversharing your inner process with people who have already shown they can't meet you there. You realize some people are committed to misunderstanding you because accepting your growth would force them to look at where they're staying stuck. So instead of trying to convince them, you redirect that energy into actually building the life you keep talking about.
Yep.
You take that focus off arguing with people who refuse to see you,
And then
and
they
you
get
pour it
mad.
into habits, environments, and connections that align with where you're headed. This is also when isolation can hit hard. Not because you're doomed to be alone, but because when you stop tolerating the old patterns, there's a transition period where the new hasn't fully arrived yet. You're not in
Can't worry
those
about
old
that, guys.
rooms
We just have
anymore,
to focus
but you
on
haven't
our
fully found
empire.
your
We have
new
to focus
rooms
on our
either.
future.
That in between can feel lonely, heavy, and disorienting. You delete numbers, stop replying, unfollow accounts, change your routine,
They don't get
and
it.
suddenly there's all this empty space. The temptation in that emptiness is to run back to what's familiar, to call someone you know is bad for you just to fill the silence, to say yes to an invitation you've already outgrown because at least it's something. But if you
Now, guys, how often do we do that in life? Do we make decisions like calling an ex and we know they're not good for us? But because we're lonely, we do this. And it all ultimately just ends up hurting us, you know? And we know this is gonna happen. You're literally manifesting it. And it's not really even manifestation, it's just cycles that repeat themselves. We have to pay attention to the patterns, the cycles in our own life. That's how you basically become the observer. And this is how you shift your life. You have people, your emotions are dictating everything that you do, everything that you feel, you think is basically being displayed in your physical life. Everything that you're focusing your mental on is what you're basically living. And I'm telling you, whatever you focus on intentionally, whatever you're focusing on consistently is what you're experiencing. So if you're focusing on nothing but negative things, negative feelings, low vibrational thoughts, low vibrational feelings, that's exactly what the universe is going to consistently keep giving you. If you live in poverty mentally, if you live in scarcity mindset, if you live, oh, I'm poor and nothing's ever going to get better, that's exactly what the universe is going to consistently keep giving you. That's what you're asking it. So when your internal dialogue is basically affirming that it's nothing but positiveness, that's what you're going to receive. If you feel inside and know that inside you are a winner and you're going to succeed, that's exactly what you're going to do. You have to know it. This is how you shift. It's all manifestation. It's all universal law, and it's all very real.
you can sit through that emptiness without rushing to fill it, something powerful starts to happen. Your nervous system recalibrates. You get to hear your own voice, not the echo of everyone else's opinions and expectations. You begin to remember what you actually like, what genuinely calms you, what actually excites you, outside of obligation and performance. You notice the difference between your intuition telling you this is off and your fear telling you this is new. The emptiness becomes less like a void and more like a clearing, a space where a new life can actually land without getting tangled up in old chaos. During this clearing stage, your standards start to harden into non-negotiables. You're no longer impressed by surface-level things that used to hook you. Attention and validation feel cheap if they're not backed by consistency and respect. Promises mean nothing if they're not met with aligned action. You stop being flattered by people who choose you only when it's convenient for them. You pay more attention to patterns than to words. If someone repeatedly shows you that your needs are secondary, that your energy is disposable, or that your boundaries are optional, you take it as data, not a debate. That shift, from trying to fix people to simply observing them, is one of the clearest signs you're stepping into a new level.
Cut them
As your
off.
standards rise,
Stop playing
your
with yourself and
tolerance for
stop
your
playing
own
with your life.
excuses also
Cut
drops.
them off.
It's not just about what other people are doing anymore. It's about the ways you've been abandoning yourself. You notice the times you gaslight your own feelings, telling yourself it's not that bad when it clearly is. You catch yourself procrastinating on changes you know you need to make, like ending a draining situation or leaving an environment that keeps you small.
Yeah, you're doing all of this for your greatest good. And I'm telling you, like, your life is going to shift in such a beautiful way. Not only will you have a sincere and unapologetic love for yourself, which in turn will give you, guys, you got to go within and do the work. You got to go within, sit in silence, deal with what you're not dealing with. You know what I'm saying? You have to deal with everything. You got to do the shadow work, first of all. If you guys don't know anything about shadow work is basically just, reflection. You go within your thoughts. You sit in some silence, preferably in a dark room. And you sit in your thoughts and you really just sit with your thoughts about everything that transpired in your life from, childhood to adulthood. You have to deal with all of the hurt, that people, brought to you in your life. You have to deal with it. You have to basically, you know, find that place in your life before the world changed you into a person who put up walls and barriers, who protected their heart, who put it in a safe. You have to get to a place before the world changed you and made you so, apprehensive to it. Guys, you have to love yourselves. You have to love yourselves. And this is all that God wants for you. This is all God wants for you, is for you to love yourself. And when I say God wants you to love yourself, and I mean wholeheartedly love yourself, because when you truly love yourselves, you won't allow people to consistently keep disrespecting you. You won't allow people to use you. And if any of you are being used, you already know it. Because if you're thinking about it, you know it. Anytime a person makes us think less about ourselves, that's a sign. If a person is making you feel like less than you are, if a person makes you feel then you deserve less than you deserve, guys, these are all signs. And it's not like it's the universe is telling you that you should hate these people. Like these people are just, don't deserve, freedom or life or anything like that, because that's not the case. This pain, this hurt that you've endured in life, it's purposeful. It's intentional. And it's only happening to you so you can transmute it, so you can alchemize it and turn it into drive, turn it into purpose, and chase your dreams that you've forgotten, that you've placed on a shelf somewhere in a dark room in the back. You know what I'm saying? You have to find your authentic selves. You're not being yourselves when you're tolerating disrespect, when you're tolerating the love that you know you deserve. But guys, we also have to be real with ourselves. If we are not being a good partner, if we are not being a good individual, regardless of who's looking, You know what I mean? It's not about when someone's watching you. It's about when no one's watching you. Who are you when no one's watching you? And you have to be real with yourself. I don't want you to tell me. I want you to tell yourself. Who am I when no one's watching? How do I think when no one's watching? How do I move when no one's watching? And I'm telling you, God knows. And God's trying to open your eyes to yourself. If you feel any friction in life, if you're going through any friction in life, I'm telling you and I'm assuring you 110%, it's all purposeful. You know? We just have to open our eyes. It's not about our perspectives. It's not about our reactions. It's about how we respond. It's about how we react, really, versus the way we used to with raw emotion, crying, and just basically chasing people that don't want us, don't deserve us, and don't respect us. If we are not respecting ourselves, how can we expect anyone outside of us to respect us, to love us? That's why it starts with you, family. It's always going to start with you. Here, right here, your heart, you know? Listen to the way people make you feel when they talk to you. When I say listen to the way people make you feel, I want you to listen to your inner dialogue when people talk to you. I want you to listen to your body when they talk to you. When they talk to you, how do they make you feel? How do you feel after the conversation? Are you physically exhausted? Are you mentally drained? Were you happy before the conversation and are you like basically down because of? We have to pay attention to these things because these are pure indications of just time to detach. That's all it really is, guys. Sincerely, like we only go through what we allow ourselves to go through. In that aspect, we have control in that aspect. But in life, we also have to come to the understanding that control is really not ours. We have to relinquish control, especially if you're expecting to flow, if you're expecting to shift, if you're, on your healing journey and you're figuring out what you have to do for you to find your best version of yourself. And ultimately, your body, your soul, your spirit is always going to know what to do, where to go, what to listen to. You just have to listen for it. Sincerely. And I mean that. It's all about your feelings. And essentially, we used to, our ancestors anyway, they used to feel everything versus, verbal communication. Everything was telepathic. Everything was through frequency, was through, vibration. Like guys, you gotta go within. You gotta meditate. You gotta start fasting. And I'm not here to incite fear. I say this consistently on, my platforms. I don't believe in fear. I don't, and you shouldn't either. It's not real. It's basically something that was taught from the moment you were pulled from your mother's womb. From the moment that doctor, hit you on the bottom. That's not natural. None of that is natural. None of that goes on in the hospital. It's natural. Do your research. I invite you all to do your research. We have to get back to our natural ways of being collectively. And this in turn will help the world heal itself, which will detoxify the oxygen and make it what it used to be, which is hydrogen. We're supposed to be breathing hydrogen, not oxygen. And I know what it sounds like, but this is truth. And don't ask me how I know, I just know. I've seen things in my visions also, but I just know certain things, like it's true, regardless who's ready to believe it or not. And I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm just here to, to speak my truth. And That's all I know how to do, and that's all I'm going to continue to do. I can't really worry about who's ready for the truth or who's not ready for it. I have a mission, and I'm doing it. I'm going to win by any means necessary. And that's how I all want you all to feel, especially if you're on the path of manifestation and you're trying to narrow the, the, the so to speak, the gaps in between the manifestation and, receiving it. Because there's literal, like, it's hard to explain, but there's like barriers that you have to compress so you can actually get from one end to the other. And it's quantum physics. It's quantum physics, but it's all very real. It's all very real, and this is another reason why the scientists right now are studying this like so much. It's very real, and we all have the capability to do this. Basically, crunch time and get to that best version of yourself in a less amount of time, so to speak. So my life is going again will be a testament to this because I'm actively, you know, displaying everything that I'm going through on my platforms, which I encourage you all to follow if you haven't yet. It's interesting, to say the least. It's very interesting, and I just want you all to know that loving yourself and being the best versions of yourself will always be worth it for you. For you, it will.
Sacrificing start to crack. The job that survived on your ability to overwork without recognition becomes unbearable. The habits that kept you numb stop giving you relief. Under that pressure, your authentic self starts leaking through the cracks of the old identity you built for survival. It's messy, but it's real. This realness means you're less interested in impressing people and more interested in feeling at peace with yourself. You're less reactive to outside noise because you're busy tuning
Joseph,
into
I
your own
appreciate
nervous
you and your
system.
time, your
What
energy,
calms
family.
you, what
Sincerely,
triggers you, what drains you,
love you.
what nourishes you.
Love.
You start choosing the boring option that actually supports your long-term well-being over the exciting chaos that leaves you empty. You value conversations that stretch your mind, not just your ego. You pay attention to who leaves you feeling regulated and grounded versus who leaves you anxious, second-guessing
Pay
yourself,
attention.
or depleted. Your definition of what's attractive in people and in opportunities evolves. Of course, as you shift, some people will fall off. Not through a big dramatic explosion every time, but through quiet distancing, less resonance, less shared values. You notice when the connection was built on trauma bonding, on complaining together, or on distractions. Once you stop feeding that, the bond weakens. And while part of you might miss the history or the familiarity, another part of you feels lighter. You realize you don't have to keep watering connections
And
that
that's
only
what
grow
it's
weeds
about.
in your mind.
Feeling
You don't
lighter.
have to stay loyal to a version of you that was built from pain just because that's how people learn to recognize you.
Right.
You're not crazy for wanting more than survival. You're not ungrateful for refusing to settle where you're clearly undervalued. You are simply at the threshold where your worth, your awareness, and your capacity have outgrown the container you've been living in. The friction you feel is not a sign to go back, it's a sign to step through. And as you do, the chaos, the endings, and the confusion that once felt like punishment begin to make sense as the exact pressure required to set you free.
With AI,
You can create any character you
That's the end of the video, family. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to be going back live. There's a few things going on, but I just want to let you all know that I love you all and I appreciate you all sincerely from the bottom of my soul. I love you all, and I want you all to have a beautiful and abundant evening. Ashe.